Hey friends, welcome to the Canyon Pathways podcast, where we invite you to live like a son and lead like a father. Canyon Pathways is a global community of men on the journey from the striving of servanthood to the freedom of sonship as we traverse the canyon that is midlife leadership. My name is Noel Boucher, and I'm the founder and part of the leadership team for this venture, and I'll be your guide throughout this podcast as we explore and discover what it means to live like a son so we can lead like a compassionate father. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Glad to be with you. And this is one of our conversation episodes where we sit with a brother from around the world who's on the journey with us into living like a son and leading like a father. And great conversation coming up with Canyon Pathways brothers Luke Smith and George Romeos in Athens, Greece. And our other type of episode we call our field note episodes, where we sit with one of our field note essays, looking at a word that embodies a concept that we believe is central in this journey into sonship, to living like a son of God, not a servant or hired hand, but a son and heir of this father. And so our previous episode was our field note essay on peace. We looked at peace as a concept. And we use the lens of the two world wars in the 20th century as a way to think about it, because we discovered that at the end of the First World War, the war to end all wars, there was a bad peace agreement. The Treaty of Versailles was punitive, and it put the vanquished in an even more difficult position. And many historians say it led directly to the Second World War, which was even more destructive, even more violence, even more lives lost, because there was a bad peace. And of course, the Second World War then followed by a different type of peace. Instead of punitive reparations, investment, the Marshall Plan, building up who were adversaries and making them allies. And it was through that lens that we looked at peace. We discovered that through that, there can be a bad peace. We have bad peace agreements. There's a difference between something that's a bad agreement and a good agreement that's going to lead to peace. And B, we dug into the word and discovered it comes from a Latin root, pacem, that literally means an agreement. In fact, it's where we get our English word pact, directly from the Latin, same word as that pacem or pax in Latin. And that is what a peace is. It must be formed. It provided contours, boundaries, terms, clarity by an agreement, a pact. Absent that, there is no peace. We like to think that we can accomplish peace by simply running away, by simply conquering or crushing the things that seem to be threats. But it is not and never will exist in a vacuum. It's only in an agreement. There has to be an agreement. It has to be a pact. You might say there has to be a covenant. And that led us into the last discovery that is how the Father creates peace for us. And the first Son came and said, "My peace I give to you, my peace, my perfect peace I leave with you." It was a new covenant with new terms, because the old covenant had been broken. There was a breach in the previous agreement. And so this God who is peacemaker, who is Father, who says, "I will come out to you, will create peace. Come, let us reason together." He does that by creating a new peace, a new pact, a new agreement, a new covenant. And we're invited into that. We're invited into it, not as servants. We're employees, hired hands. We're invited into it as sons and heirs of this Father who is making peace, and who, because we are image bearers, is inviting us to be peacemakers with him, to enter into better agreements with the people around us. That is where peace is found. So great discoveries, really transformative for me. And now we're going to go to our conversation where Luke Smith, George Romeos dive in even deeper into this idea of peace, what it means, what it is, how we experience it as sons, how even in the turmoil and the conflict that is part and parcel of leadership, of leading others in this fallen age, that there can be peace, that we can experience peace, that we can bring peace, we can be stewards of the peace that the Son of God is providing to us through his Spirit in us, ultimately forming us in the image of that Son who did only that, which the Father sent him to do. So let's jump right into the conversation. Here's Luke. Here's George. I'll catch you on the other side. Welcome to the community side of the Canyon Pathways podcast, where we continue to develop the language of sonship, one word at a time, through the life of one son at a time. And today we have the privilege of welcoming George Romeos, co-founder of Cosmovision and a key host for our CP retreats in Greece. And George, it's such an honor to have you with us today.
It's my honor as well. Luke, I'm very happy to talk with you guys and with all the brothers and sons.
Well, George, I remember I got to come out to Greece and I got to meet you, and you were the one who gave me a ride in your car, just rolling. And I was introduced to the world of pistachios by you. And I'm grateful for that. They were awesome. Getting to go to that retreat, it just made me think, you know what, here we are connecting from all over the world around this simple theme of learning to live like sons so we can lead like fathers, putting in this package that we're calling Canyon Pathways. How in the world were you introduced to Canyon Pathways, George?
Yes, the fact that you are talking to me means that I drove well. And as a matter of fact, today I just picked up this year's pistachios harvest. Um, so next time I see you, we'll enjoy some together. I was introduced to Canyon Pathways from a friend, a young man that the earlier years I was able to um, uh, talk to his life a little bit. And then later, he talked to my life as he invited me to come to Aegina Dimitris. And I'm very glad for that. I'm very happy. He's a great connector. And one of the things great connectors do, they don't keep the contacts for themselves, but they introduce people with each other. And this is how I came to the Canyon Pathways family.
Well, you, George, you are awesome host. When I was riding across the ferry from Athens to Aegina, and what I heard is there's like hundreds of islands that are inhabited in Greece, and you picked out one. Why did you pick Aegina for the retreats? Was there any reason for that?
I think beyond the history that this island has some logistics also, where there is a beautiful island not far from Piraeus, not far from Athens. It's a short ride sail, about an hour, and this makes it convenient. And I think the place that we are gathering in Aegina is beautiful. The setting, the house, the view. But more beautiful is the company and the fellowship of the brothers.
Oh man, and George, to talk to me about that. I mean, your first experiences, I know you've been to more than one now, but what has stuck out to you about those retreats?
That was amazing. The main feeling is I felt immediately that I was with family. And uh, as we start preparing a meal, that was pretty much after the trip. That was our first endeavor together. And for some reason, food connects people, and it's a need that applies for everyone, and everyone has a little knowledge, especially men. We have sometimes less knowledge, but we needed to put together our minds and our abilities to make food, to cook, and this immediately made us family, because I think this is what uh, Jesus also wants to do. You know, he started introducing the people, Adam and Eve, to food, and then later on, he prepared food for many cases. And at the end of the story, he is going to prepare a table. So I think
Mm.
it's something magic when men come together and food is involved. And our try and our endeavor to make this happen, I think, made us family. And then the other thing is, usually people that they are interesting for each other, they share a meal with, right? You don't go with somebody else to share a meal. Usually with people you're feeling attached, and friends and family. This is who you want to share a meal with. So the fact that the meal came immediately, this put us together, show us that we have the same needs. I think that was uh, very important.
It's so true, and I know there is
the the main goal of pulling guys out of their world of fathering and getting them into a world where they can just rest and receive as sons. And I know in that, one of our centerpiece scriptures has been the Luke 15 narrative of the father that's just searching for his prodigal and longing for his faithful son at home to come to know the depths of his love. And did you have an experience with that at all while you're there, as far as greater understanding or interaction with that particular story?
Exactly. I felt like you greatly said, the father, the very first thing, he helped him dressed up and he made the meal for him. And he made the best meal. He chose the best cow. And I felt uh, even even we went out and we tried to find the materials, the food for the meal.
Mhm.
We tried to find the best. We
Yes.
tried to find the right tomatoes. We tried to find the right food, and I felt right at home um, doing that. So
Beautiful, man. And I love how you said that. And if you've been to a retreat, you know this, but if you haven't, one of the things we do is we give a word out to everybody that comes, and Noah's prayed over that. We call it a prophetic observation, where he looks at your life and asks God to give us a word that maybe he wants to highlight for you to look at and just to let him speak to you about. And your word was house, and you were
yeah,
cultivating a home. And you did such a wonderful job. But when Noel gave you that word house, what were your first thoughts on that?
it was amazing because uh, these days I'm looking. Possible to, if I am able to build something. All these years we are building Cosmovision Center, and this is a house, it's a home, is a something we want to promote hospitality, we call it. And uh, here in Greece, parents often, most of the time, this is at least their desire, is to give their children a heritage, which usually is a house. And my parents, and this is very interesting story, but been very poor. At the end of their life, almost, they were able to give my brother and I a house, and that's amazing. And even now, I'm thinking for my children. I don't know if I will be able. I have even more children than my dad used to have, but anyways, I'm thinking for my kids. I want them to have a house, and then the voice of Jesus comes. I'm going to my father, and in my father's house, there is a lot of places. So, what are you worrying for? What are you looking for? You're looking for a house for people to find a shelter, to feel safe, to feel welcome. I have done this for you already. So, uh, I am in the process. So that was very significant, this word for me. I felt really, really touched in my heart.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I know that in the Lord's house, that idea of my house shall be a house of prayer, when he was reflecting on his father's house, but it's also a house for many nations. And part of that Greece retreat is we're literally gathering sons from nations in that place. And what was it like to have all these sons from different nations under one roof for you?
Yeah, that was the amazing thing. Okay, in my ministry, we used to have people from different nations, but this made me feel at home when I went to Canyon Pathways the first time. We had people, we had the Jew and we had the Greek, and I said, amazing, right there. The Bible is been real, Jew and the Greek and the Gentiles, and this is amazing. So I felt at home, and I know one day every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess, and there will be people, like you said, from every nation. So every picture that represents what is going to happen in the future gets me excited.
Wow, praise the Lord. And I know right now we're at a time in history, and I don't think there's not been a time in history where this would apply, but we can say, hey, we are in desperate need of peace. And Noel's field note on peace is so, so good. And just walking away, for me, walking away and hearing peace is about a pact, an agreement, or a covenant. And anything else that jumped out to you from Noel's field note on peace? Because we're going to be talking about peace today and what it means to be a peacemaker in your story. I'm so excited about that, George. Anything that jumped out to you from Noel's field note?
Yeah, well, to make a start there, people sometimes they are surprised when a war comes up, and even these days they are mentioned again in Europe, at least, the possibility of the third whole world war. But the reality is, we have a declared war from the beginning. When God made Adam and Eve, and all this situation with the fall of the mankind happen, and we choose our own ways, and we choose to listen to another person than God, and to bring his ideas into our lives. And then God comes to find the humans. He tells them, I'm going to declare a war between you and your sperm. And so is a declaration of the war from the beginning of the humankind. And the very first, so to speak, items of this war were two brothers, um, Abel and Cain, and then they tried to offer a worship, and the one's worship was different than the others, and the offering was different. And God, for some reason, He accepted the one son's offering over the others, and this it was one more reason why uh, the war that was already declared uh, took in place. So the one brother killed the other, and actually, it's not just nations, it's not just colors against each other, and it's not even religions against each other. We see this war happening among family members, and this is the worst part. And this is why we see um, uh, peace is lacking. And then when Jesus is about to come to this earth and to take a human form, the angels come and they find uh, whoever was awake. And this is a very big thing. The shepherds that night, they were awake in the land of Israel. And the message, what was message? Peace on earth, peace on earth. So all these years, all these centuries, all these back and forth situations among people, and when Jesus was ready to come, the prophet ahead of them, the angels, which this is the prophet ahead of him, they prophesize peace is coming, peace is coming. And this is what Jesus came to bring. He didn't come to bring healing, although he healed people and from leprosy and crooked people and deaf and blind people. It was not his purpose to just give food and give bread and fish around to the people. His main purpose came to bring peace, and to bring peace in different directions. Bring peace between God and humans, God and humans, because that was a separation there that happened. And then the second thing, he came to bring peace with each other, people among them, because for some reason we dislike more people than the people we like. And sometimes we dislike even our family and our friends. And then the third kind of peace is to bring peace in our heart. And this is why we see even Jesus after his resurrection, every time he met the people for several days that was here on this earth, he says, "Fear not, peace with you, peace with you." And this is why I like our brothers from Israel when they call Shalom, because and when they use it twice, because this is the main greeting that we want to bring to each other: peace with you.
Oh, George, that is awesome. And I heard you when you're walking through those three things here and saying there's an issue of conflict and there's an issue of confusion. And then we have the king who comes in and says, I've come here to bring peace. And that's for everybody on earth. But I want to know right now, George, what makes Greece a unique place to talk about peace?
um, I don't have all the information in my mind, or rather, all the experience in my mind that I would like to share. But Greece is a place that as we're going to the school in history, we learn different stuff, starting from the very first beginning. And Greece has a history of thousands of years, right? And all the history and the history books as they going, they have a baseline, they have a common factor. And what is this? Wars. We had the Peloponnesian Wars. We had the wars of Athenians against Spartans and the Thebians. And we had then the wars, 3 times the kings of Persia, they came. For some reason, they like the islands. I don't know what they like, but they came over to Greece to take it over. We only have to give some good scenery, islands, sea, sun, and stuff like that. But for some reason, big wars happened, and they came with 1 million of soldiers and a lot of stories. So, like the battle in Marathon, or the war in Salamis, or the Thermopylae, where 300 men tried to defeat till they got all dead, a huge Persian army. So all of our history includes wars. And then later on in our lives, we had at least 400 years under the Turks, under the Ottoman Empire, similar to the Jewish people, that they had 400 years under the Egyptians. And then later on, we had 4 years under the German occupation, 1941 to 1944. Every European nation that were occupied by Germans, this happened from several hours to several days. We stopped them for months, and these months gave the Allies the opportunity to prepare the defense down in Egypt. So it was significant wars, that helped not just Greece, but all the human race. And then of course, we stopped the Ottoman Empire too, with revolution of 1821. And so we know all these wars, and we as a country, as a people, as a nation, we fought a lot for the freedom. What I'm trying to say, all of our lives, it's involve a war. So when you are in a war, if you are a normal person, you longing for peace. Now, the opposite of war, sometimes it happens to be no war, but in reality, it should be peace, right? And also, we have a very nice, is a little bit mythology, but a few hundred years ago, 2 gods of the 12 gods of Mount Olympus, they fought among them who is going to become the favored god for the city that didn't have a name then, but now they call it Athens, Greece. So they came to Greece, and the qualifiers was Poseidon. He's the god of the seas, and goddess Athena. So they came in front of this city, and they said, "Okay, we're going to compete, and who you choose will give my name for the city." So Poseidon, what did he offer to the city members? He offered them victory over every war. Let's say we have now the very well-known Ukraine with Russia, or in Gaza with Israel, but in reality, we have almost 30 wars that they are active around the world this moment. How about if in every war you will get involved with, you're going to get the victory? Amazing offering, right? This is what Poseidon offered. What did Athena offer? And finally, she won. She offered peace. So no victory over every war, but peace, which means harmony with everybody. And people, they choose and they said, you know what? I don't care for victory. I don't want to go through war to get the victory. I want peace. So they choose Athena, and she gave them a tree, which is an olive tree. The olive tree is an item that symbolizes peace. And for that reason, those citizens, they named their city Athena after her name. So you see, in our inner, even in our mythology, and even in our core part, um, peace is a very important.
Oh, I love it, and I appreciate just the history lesson was amazing. I loved that, and when I'm thinking about the scriptures, I know that the scriptures call God the God of peace, and interestingly, it calls the gospel of peace. And as you're talking about that, you can see in Greece some sort of a framework that was almost like it was being built for the gospel just to come in. And my question for you would be, how do you see this gospel of peace, the message of Jesus Christ, contrasting with ancient Greek mythology or modern philosophy in Greece? But also, how do you see it coming in? Talk about that for a second, George.
Well, that's very good uh, question. I think an easy answer that comes up to my mind this moment is peace is coming through the peacemakers. So you have to be a peacemaker to offer peace. People can talk about peace, but if they are not the peacemakers themselves, they cannot create peace. And now these days, as I was listening the news a little bit before the podcast, the president of the United States is meeting with the president of Israel to discuss the peace elements. And I was thinking in my mind, I said, it's not about programs and about our try how we will bring peace if we are not peacemakers ourselves. If the Prince of Peace he hasn't have his throne within our hearts, we cannot recreate, or we cannot deliver, or we cannot find the solution as a peace. So we have to have the Prince of Peace within us to be able to serve the other people with peace. With peace. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about it. And the Bible tells us when people they talk about peace, 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 all of a sudden disaster is coming. So you have to be a peacemaker yourself. You have to have make peace with God, as Billy Graham used to say in one of his books, peace with God. We have to have a harmony with our creator. And this is where everything starts. And this is understanding that we have been his enemies. We have choose the wrong side. We repent and we come to his side, and we turn from our own ways, we turn from our sinful ways, and we turn and repent, and we come to him. With one word, we are surrendering ourselves. We are surrender. If we are surrender ourselves, this means that we lost the war, right? And in the war against God that the humankinds they have to surrender and say, God, we want your kingdom. So when we surrender to God, He does an amazing thing. He comes within us, He comes alongside with us. And as we said earlier, He has a dinner with us. And this is something that the older days they used to have as a symbol of peace. You mentioned before that a road was paved for the gospel, and part of this road, an instrument of God, was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, he started his reign when he was about 30 years old, and he finished his reign when he died about 33 years old. So in these years, he went almost and conquer India, and he went all over the world. They say he built 200 cities, which 70 of them they had his name, and one of the most known ones it's existing now in Egypt, called Alexandria, Egypt. Right? Uh, uh, Alexander he did something amazing. When Romans or other people occupied the place, usually what they did, they burned down to ashes every city, and then on top of it they built their own. Right? Alexander, what he did, he went where was existing a city, and he let it be there, and next to it he built his own city, so people they could compare what they had with what he gave to them. And this is what I am saying sometimes God does with us. He comes next to us when we seek peace with him. He conquers us, we surrender to him, and he doesn't turn us down. He takes the old George, and he puts his presence and he dwells within us. He doesn't destroy us immediately, our bodies, but he comes and he takes the form of a man. And this is how he brings his peace. So this is what opposes to opposes the enemy of man, which is Satan. What he does, he's a man killer. Satan is a man killer. He wants to kill us, and he finds a satisfied with that. Before God and before Jesus, we don't get killed. Although Apostle Paul he says, in your presence, we are dying daily. We are not dying physically. We dying our egos, our pride, our bad self. And next to it comes something more beautiful. A cosmima comes up, a jewel, because he says, you are his jewel. What is his jewel? Did you see my heart is wicked, is dirty. I am like a cloth which is dirty. Even the best person's heart is wicked. Uh, what does he see? No, he sees what he can build next to it or within it. And this is his temple, because he comes in, he puts his temple and his throne within this wicked heart and city and home. And this is the peace.
That was awesome, George. And when I was hearing you talk about that, I remember when Jesus was teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, and he starts going through those characteristics. We call them the Beatitudes, and he lists one off about being peacemakers, and that's the one that he says, the peacemaker will be called the Son of God. And we're talking about
Amen.
learning how to live like sons, and it takes me back when you said to that Genesis account between the two brothers that are coming to worship, and one is blessed and one is not received. And the Lord says to that one, he says, check out your heart. He's like, there's something lurking within you that wants to have you, that wants to control you. And this was an interesting picture. I loved how you said that comparison between the old you conquered by Jesus, and then looking like what Jesus is offering you to transform you versus just to destroy you. And praise God that we have a God that wants to pick us up out of the miry clay, set our feet upon a rock, put a new song of praise to our God to restore us and give us a hope in the future. That's our God. And I know, George, you're a peacemaker, and that didn't come out of nowhere. You've got a story. Every one of us came from somewhere. And I want to go back into the story about your parents, how they got together, and just the miracles that God had worked in their life to take them from two totally different places, bringing them together in order to see a convergence of the gospel in their life. Can you give us a small picture of your parents, Kostas and Irini, which for those of you that are Greek, your mother's name actually is Peace.
Peace. Yeah.
I think that's so neat. That's so neat.
Irini, and all my three daughters, they have this name, and my boat has this name. We feel very significant, blessed to have this name. And my brother is called, his middle name is Salim, which it means the son of peace, which is actually an actual thing. It's the son of peace, but also of Irini, of peace. So thank you. Now you give me a very a difficult task, because you asked me to put almost 170 years together in a few minutes, but I will try my best. So my mother was born in a small island of Greece, and she comes from the part which I called religious part, and my father was born in Greece, the year where Greeks, fortunately from another war conflict, came out of Asia Minor, because those days a lot of Greeks, they were living in Asia Minor. And 1922, and this is the year where he was born, they were throwing away from the sea, and they came. We won't use the word genocide, because people, they use it very cheaply these days. They don't know
Mhm.
what does this mean? But anyways, so my mom, all her life, the first 13, 14 years, she wanted to become a nun. With some small allowance that she got from a salesman of Bibles, she got a New Testament and she started reading it herself. But at the same time, he was following all the rituals of the state church, the Greek Orthodox Church. And she was so good that she knew all the liturgies by heart. And she was helping the local priest to perform every different saint celebration and Easter and Christmas. And she knew everything to a point that the priest always will ask her to do something unheard for those days. At the end of the liturgy, she would ask Irini, peace, to share a little bit from the Bible. So she would get up, 15 years old, and share. Um, One day, she went to the priest to get a Holy Communion. But what you have to do is before you get the Holy Communion, you have to go and confess to the priest the previous day. But my mom was working in the fields. She was not able to get for the confession, but she thought very highly of the Lord's Supper, or as they call it, the Holy Communion. And she went to receive it. But the priest said, Irini, peace, you haven't confessed to me, so I cannot give it to you. And she said, but Father, um, it says in the Bible that confess your sins to each other. So I told my girlfriend, my sins. So I did confess. And the priest says, no, 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 you have to come to me and stuff like that. So he didn't give her. Next Sunday, my mom, actually Saturday, she goes for the confession and she goes to the priest, same priest, and she brings before him every known sin that she knew or heard of. She brought it as her own. And the priest says, no, 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 you haven't committed any of those. And my mother asked him, how do you know that, Father? And he said, because I know you, Irini. And he says, you didn't know me last week. Why you didn't give me last week the Holy Communion? And then some other questions, such as why do we have to pray for the dead people, since the Bible here, it says, is given to mankind once to die, and after this is judgment. So, anyways, stories like that brought my mom in opposition with the priest. He asked the bishop. The bishop asked him to bring a canon on her. So they told her for several weeks, you will not take Holy Communion. You have to do A, B, C, D, E, and then we'll give you again. But my mom could not get this as an answer because she thought she was committing worst sin if she won't get Holy Communion from the sin which supposedly she committed without confessing one time to the priest. And later on, all this commotion brought a difficulty, and the priest had, with a long story short, to through the council of the bishop to excommunicate my mother from the Greek Orthodox Church. They called her heretic, and they told her you cannot get Holy Communion. And also, they made the paper that went all over the island in every single temple, church, advising the people to stay away from these ladies. And this was only 16 years old of age. Uh, for example, her mom, that she was agnostic, and up to this point, she never stepped in a church. After that situation, she would go there more than one day every week to church to prove she's not like her daughter. But also her relatives, they took a distance from her. And that was like a scarlet letter for my mom. The worst part of it, she could not get Holy Communion in the island. So at the age of 17 years old, she took a very big decision. For first time in her life, she got in a small boat and brought her to the big city, to Athens. and she started her life there, which is a whole story by itself. But their goal was to go to Constantinople, as we call it now, Istanbul, and meet the patriarch. And in their way there, they wanted to preach the gospel. The story says, and this is a written story of her memoir, of her calendar that she kept, they stop every 300 feet, kneel down, and pray which direction to go. I mean, was immediately after Second World War. In Greece, we had the Civil War, and was not an easy situation. No buses, no taxis, no trains, no aeroplanes, no boats to travel. You had to walk everywhere. And so the Civil War occurred between Greeks, and it was the attempt of the Eastern Russians to turn all Europe in communism. And this is how they started. They started from up top, coming down, what we call for the later years Eastern Europe or Balkans. And they were coming down Yugoslavia those days, and they wanted to get out in the water. So they wanted to occupy Greece. This happening, a young man coming after the Second War, uh, uh, wounded, but he thought he wanted to change the world. And this young man, um, he proved himself amazingly through the 4 years of occupation of Germans. The story says he was going downtown among German soldiers holding a sack on his shoulder, and this sack had ammunition and guns in there. And he was so brave. He was pretending he was carrying something different, and he was going through the soldiers like nothing is happening, but he was taking guns to other people, and he was very brave. And in his endeavor, he decided to go in those days Yugoslavia to learn the theory of communism. So he walked all the way from Athens to Yugoslavia, those days Skopje. He was a little bit more attached to the story of Trotsky, which was not Lenin, but this guy, he was communist, but he didn't believe he would bring communism with guns, but with peaceful means, Trotsky. So he studied for a year, and then he came back down, but because of that, all his family turned against him. And he was fighting. He was very successful. He grew up in the political party to belong in the security, in the internal police of the party. So one day doing that, he met with a person. The person, he was militant. He was a police officer, but with regular clothes. And it started a fight. The other guy shot my dad, this person in the leg, and they arrested him. The long story short, he went to the court. He was convicted guilty under the death penalty at least 2 times, and they put him in the prison. In the prison, he understood a few things. He stayed there in isolation and in very hard conditions, and for 7 years. And among the other things he understood is like his own people had betrayed him. So he understood that people as not as they present themselves. Almost every day, they knock his door and they say, let's go, it's your time. And then they say, no, it's you tomorrow. So almost every day, all these 7 years he was in the prison, they called him out to kill him, but they didn't. And that was one of the worst things that they could do to him. But doing that to him, he learned how to die every day. And later on, when he accepted Christ in his life, and he read the verse that says, pick up your cross and follow me, and says, die every day, daily. He understood that very good. So this is the story of my dad. So my mom came from one side, the religious side, and my dad came out of the atheistic communist side on the other side. And somewhere in one hospital of Athens, these two people, they met, the one as an X-ray technician, the other one as a patient. Somehow they follow the lead of God. And maybe 5 or 6 years later, you remember my mom wanted to become a nun, so she did not want to get married. She accepted him to become her husband, and my brother and I came out of this relationship. That's the very, very short. My parents will be proud of me to make it so short.
George, that's awesome. How did your dad get from death row stuff into a hospital where he's meeting her, and then how is he getting out of jail to get married to her? What happened there?
Well, he had to go for 3 years to the hospital daily because he had TB. Um, and actually, the story it's very interesting because he signed a paper that says, "I don't want to have anything with the Communist Party anymore. I regret my past life." Everything that he did there, it was, so to speak, a preparation for his transformation. Like he had to deny his old self and his old life as a communist. And later on, he had to deny himself as a member of a kingdom of darkness before Christ. So everything that happened to him in the political part of his life happened to the spiritual aspect of his life later too. So it was this small paper, but in reality, it was God's grace that delivered him from the prison. There are many other significant stories. He was followed for many years, even when he was going to an evangelical church later, from former companions in the Communist Party that they were trying to bring him back, to the political party. And also, they were trying later when they issue um, um, a payment for those that they fought in the resistance. They call it through 1941 to 44 to give him some money, and he rejected. And the people they were trying to help, no, you have to get this patient because you fought and stuff like that. And he says, this is a past. I don't want to get a benefit from something I regret doing. So people, they were following him and he could see them. The minute that my dad felt that he was clean from his past was when he asked for visa to go to America for my wedding. And those days, um, the embassies, they would give you a paperwork to do. And some of the questions were, uh, have you been a communist in your life? And my dad, he was a believer. He had to say yes. And then he says, did you have affiliation with the Communist Party? Yes. Did you do this? Did you do that? So he answered yes. And originally, I mean, his thought was that he will be rejected to give him a visa for America. But in his surprise, he got a visa. So this it was indication for him that his past was clear. So they did not hold his prior records as against him. So that was a very big blessing because that happened uh, just 13 years before he passed. He was around 70 years old. For 40 years, he was going back and forth. Am I clean? Is my records clean? Because, the prior friends were coming, try to recruit him again, and devil was coming sometimes to
Wow.
remind him his past and all these things. So,
Wow.
uh, and then the family, in a sense, he never made the peace with his family because in the beginning they didn't like him because he was a communist member. He belonged to the Communist Party, but then later on, after he accepted Christ, he started going to an evangelical Protestant church. So these people, they were, so to speak, fanatic with the state church, Greek Orthodox Church. So they thought that was even bigger betrayal for their family because we live in a society that is the same society that the people they are very heavy on shameful things. So that was embarrassing for their family. Their son was communist. Oh no. their son was a different religion. Oh no. So he never found so to to speak peace with his family, although all the members of his family later on loved him and he took care of the most of them, but always was this separation. You are heretic. Once they told him, you send your sons to America to study how to change our religion. So he had this little cross that was carrying, but at the same time, that was a blessing because anything that happened to this guy coming out of 7 + 3, 10 years in the prison and in the hospital, missing one lung, didn't have the support of his family. Um, After a war, he was able to work hard as much as he could, and then give to his children a house. So now it makes more significance to say why it was important we got a house from our parents, right? Because it
Amazing.
didn't come from me that thousands of euros or dollars they have gone through my hands. They came from a person that he was poor, um, uh, he was rejected by his own people. My mom, he had to go to the court uh, by the bishops at least 3 or 4 times in the local island, in nearby island, for her faith, and being accused as proselytism, proselytizing her own family. All these 3 or 4 times that she went to the court, God gave her grace. She stood before the judge, and every time she was split, no guilty. And at the end of their days, uh, peace came with her family. And now, um, more my mom's than my dad's members of her family, they love Jesus. They belong to a local church, and they serve him in various ways.
Incredible. Incredible, George. And I just think your mom being set free from religion to find the living God, and your dad being set free from ideology in prison to find the living God. And they found something that nobody could cage up anymore. And out of that's your soil, man. That's incredible. And when you think about your life, and if you were to say, this is what I walk away with, this is what I walked away when I think about my mom and dad and what they gave to me, what do you feel like are those core things that you're walking away with from their life?
Well, their effort all their lives was to make peace with their families, with their neighbors, with people that they were against them, either thinking that they're enemies or they were heretics. So this heart, they gave it to us. Growing up with my mother and father, it's no any denominational church that we didn't visit, although we were going regular to one church, evangelical church. During the week, every day of the week, we would visit a different denomination. And now my brother is the president of the Evangelical Alliance of Greece. I think has to do a lot of with this because we have contacts with all these people, and uh, people in different denominations, they say with one or the other way, my mom and my parents, they were very contributed in their lives. And last Sunday in our fellowship, somebody says 1955, my father as a carpenter, he went to his father's house to build some uh, wooden furniture. And as he was working the wood, he was giving his testimony. And because of this testimony, the father of the other guy came to know the Lord. And now 3 of his family are pastors and they're serving the Lord. And this is a testimony. And we hear stories like that. So you are right. We've been in a soil that has been before us. We've been blessed to be on this soil. So from my mom, mostly we got this peace aspect, and my father facing death and being in the mountains fighting for a long time. Um, we learned to not be afraid. Do not be afraid of anyone. Do not be afraid of humans. Your only fear should be towards God. And that is a message of the Bible. And this is it, what Jesus says: peace to you, and do not be afraid. From my mom, peace with other people. From my dad, do not be afraid. And we are trying to do that. And look, it's not an easy way. It's not an easy to seek peace. And it's not easy when you see what is happening around the world, and when you have bills for your children from the college, and when you have challenges with the ministry, and when you have all these people surrounding, and sometimes you feel, uh, I am like Gideon. You feel I am from the least of the families and the poorest one, and I am the youngest of the family. I have nothing to offer. What should I offer? And then the thoughts of Peter comes to me. We don't have silver and gold, but what we have to offer peace and fear not. And what we are trying to encourage people is, uh, go ahead. We are starting from our own family, from my own children. Uh, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to make steps. Do not be afraid to go forward. Do not be afraid to talk to people about Jesus. Do not be afraid. And uh, of course, we are aiming for peace, and this is not uh, even easy. Comes a verse that bothers me a little bit from the Psalms. It says, "If it was my enemy, I would know who am I fighting against. But it's you, my brother, that we went together in the house of the Lord, that you turn your foot against me." And sometimes we facing um, uh, difficult situations within a family, with a church. We see couples that they fight with each other. We have more than 50% divorce rate in Greece, and in other places in Europe, in America, I think is up high as well. So we lacking peace. And as we walk in these days, it's more and more like we walk in the valley of the shadow of death. And maybe our friends from Israel, they understand more, or our friends and brothers, sons from Ukraine and Russia, they understand this more. And other places in Sudan or in Afghanistan or in Syria or in Iran, they understand this more than us. But as we go in these days, that nothing sounds hopeful, and even the biggest leaders of the world, like UN, which is supposedly is the peace organization, right? Even UN lifts up their hands. What they can do, they cannot bring peace. We said peace is coming from the peacemakers. So we find this effort very difficult to do. But on the other hand, we know it's not our job. Our job is to fear not, and to have peace in our hearts, and try to tell the others, the ones that the sons that they meet in Aegina, they meet in canyon pathways, and they go through different and difficult situations. Don't be afraid, my brother. Do not be afraid. God is with us. And if God is with us, who can be against us? Who can separate us from his love? Uh, Death, hunger, violence, war. Who can take us away from him? Do not be afraid. And I'll have peace with God, and have peace with your brother. And this way you will have peace with him.
That is awesome. And I know, George, you had mentioned that part of your story is you followed Jesus and ended up in the States and ended up in in a ministry called Cosmo City, and then just, or how did you call it? No, it was called City Vision. And then you took it to Athens and called it Cosmovision, right?
Correct. I was working in New York, 1988, with City Vision of Tom Mahet. And then he says, let's create City Vision in Greece. And I said, what are you talking about? City is too small. Let's create a Cosmovision.
And you started describing, I remember when you were describing to me how the world started to come to you because of crisis. And you talked about um, as you're building this ministry and you're seeing four waves of 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 the nations coming to you over these last 30 years. And You described the Eastern European one in the early 90s, the Greek financial collapse in the early 2000s, the Syrian war, 2015-ish, and then most recently the North African arrivals, all coming in conflict, all coming out of chaos, all in need of the gospel, all looking for hope. And all these people, although Greece isn't necessarily their destination point, they're coming through Greece right to you. Can you give me a little of the story of Cosmovision and how God put you right there to minister to these people?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Look, like I would like to say, you said it very nice. Why Cosmovision? The Bible tells us without vision, people are perished. So we need to have vision, right? We need to. It says that the last days, your young people they will have visions, and God brings vision. And many times we see in the Bible how men of God or plain people they show a vision, like Paul. I saw a vision, and then Abraham he sees a vision, and then and many other occasions. So vision, and the question is what this vision should be, and the answer is in the first word. For so God loved the world. Uh, this is his vision, and word in Greek is cosmos. And cosmos is a very significant word because we have cosmology, but in Greek, cosmos means jewel. So God loved his jewel, the world, the cosmos. He gave his one and only begotten son. So we name it Cosmovision for that reason. And for some reason, when we came here and when my dad, out of fear, the one who told us, do not be afraid, bought a piece of property in one place that almost 10 years later, an airport was built, and when we would see the aeroplanes coming in daily, six, seven, 800 flights coming in from various parts of the world with different nationalities coming in, and as we'd say, see the world coming out and in and out with the airplanes, we saw the world coming to our place. And then when the Iron Curtain, the wall in Germany crashed in front of the eyes of people, and we saw that even on TV. And we had all the Eastern European countries flooding our country. Just from one country, Albania, we had more than 1 million people that they came to our country just from one country. But Bulgaria, Romania, Yugoslavia, Turkey, uh, all the countries, people flooded in Greece, and we say, what are we doing now? What we would do with all this? Okay, and this is where the vision comes in. Um, draw them near to God. Talk to them about the peace that they can have with God. And imagine all these people. They came from different situations. I remember we had the conference in 1992 up north in Greece. We call it Equipped Europe or something like that, and we had the people from different nations from Eastern European countries, having in your mind that some of these nations, like Kosovo and Albania and Yugoslavia, they were in the war a few weeks, a few months ago, right? I will just give you a picture. Look, it was amazing. It's the last day of the conference. We even had some reporters coming around from different newspapers and TV channels to see this weird phenomenon of all these people from former Balkan countries gathering together in Greece. And it was just Sunday morning and was just the minute that the conference will conclude and the program had the Lord's Supper. Hmm. And the music played and some songs they've been coming, from English, and every country knew them in their own language. They sing in their own language. So some unity has been built, but also as we coming before the Lord's Supper, there is some quiet time and the moment of a little bit hesitation And then we became witnesses of something incredible. We see some people from Kosovo. They get up, they take the bread and the cups, and they go before the Albanians. And we see some people from other countries, that even as we were meeting, war coming up actually during the night, peaceful during the day, and every night the shooters were coming out. And then we see some Turks, they get up and they go and they offer to Cypriots, and the Cypriots and uh, some Greeks to Turks, and we see an amazing picture of peacemaking through the Lord's Supper when people they start giving these items, the bread who represents the body of Jesus that was broken to bring peace, and those moments was not any enemy in front of me, was a son of God in front of me, was my brother in Christ, that I was able to minister and to give them um, these items, and they were able to give me amazing picture of peace.
That is amazing picture of peace, George. And as I'm thinking about that, you, you're at Cosmovision, you're seeing this world come to you, all those tensions, and you're seeing the gospel just being the ground level peacemaking power that is busting through all of the tensions and even the hatred between people. In You said that in Greece they'd had shame and fear, and my guess is in these cultures they're probably coming in with all their baggage and hurts and woundedness and assumptions and confusion. And what are some of the practical things that you found yourself doing, you know, um, to just love people and show them the gospel at Cosmovision as you're bringing them in there? What did you do? How did you love them?
uh, I don't know. This is maybe the word you use. We just try to love them with the love that we have received. I will give you another story from the second wave. We had a lot of people, they came from Asia, and still they are coming because we need the labor, and they try to bring people from India and Pakistan. But those days there were waves from India and Pakistan that they were coming in the second wave. And one of the efforts we did is to celebrate Christmas. So we had either the people we knew that they were believers, but we said, let's bring the people together that from India. And they are split among themselves too. Some they are Hindu, some they are Sikh. Some people they say they have 30 million religions in India. So among them, they are not even the same. But we say, since you are in this country, we invite you for a meal. And this is always the common denominator, probably. So we want to have a Christmas meal. So we bring them in and we have a Christmas meal, and we share the love of Christ, and we give them some gifts, and we flood them with love. And think of it, they're Pakistanis and Indians, right? So this is now the third Christmas that we do this celebration, and we have, I don't know, 600-700 people that they came over, which still they are not a lot. If one of their guru comes and gathers 5,000 people, and even they pay money to go to hear him, and we invite them for free, and we cannot gather more than 500-600. But nevertheless, all these years, we had, by God's grace, create something that we call the very first Indo-Pakistani church. So what it is all the people like in North that they had the conflict a few months ago, is Punjab. So Punjab, although you're in Pakistan and India, you speak the same language, right? So this was the common denominator. Yes, they were Pakistanis. Yes, they were Indians, but they were speaking the same language. So we brought them together and we create a church plant. And these people, they will love to come every Sunday. We pick them up, we treat them, and we show uh, dozens and dozens and dozens of them. They got baptized and they came to know the Lord. Now, one Christmas, we celebrate and we have the meal for Christmas and we have this. Comes the deputy ambassador of India, of Greece, to this party because a lot of Indians they were. He got the word out and came. So at the end of the meeting of the meal, the ambassador comes and I am a little bit trembled, but you remember my dad says, do not be afraid. And my mom says, peace. I said, okay. And says, sir, I would like to express my thanksgiving on behalf of my country and my ambassador for what you guys doing of my people in this foreign land, and we appreciate it because not many people they do what you do, open their homes and give them a wonderful meal and stuff like that. But only I have a question for you, he says. Can you tell me something? Everything was great and the program and talking about this person of yours, how you call him Jesus and stuff like that. But why are the Pakistanis here? Because Indians, they are not very friends with Pakistanis, right? And then gave me one more opportunity to share the good news of salvation. And stories like that, which sometimes they are happy and they have happy end and they finish in a baptismal service, but sometimes they have a difficult end. It was June of that year, and we had a person from Pakistan that he was willing to get baptized. So June we did his baptism, 22 years old of age. September, in the same place, we did his funeral. His roommate that was disappeared, and the police could not pinpoint enemies, probably didn't like his transformation, and he killed him. Stories like that, they remind us the first war that was declared. I came to put a war between you and your sperm. Jesus said in another place, like you mentioned before, I didn't come to bring peace, but to bring sword. Wait. How that can be possible? We're talking all this time about peace and peacemakers and the Prince of Peace and peace being with you. But sometimes having peace with God, it creates a turmoil with people. And I don't want to say something more because I'm not there right now. But back in America, I sense this these days. I sense that our effort to bring the gospel, it's not resulting a peace among people, but we see this knife, we see this separation even within the family. And this is what I would call a healthy uh, or unhealthy peace. People, they turn against each other. And this is not who should we be. This is not what we have been called to do. And sometimes peace requires betrayal. And sometimes peace requires beating up and a crown of thorns and a cross and a death. Sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, peace requires that. For peace to come, somebody has to die. For peace to come, somebody has to give up his life and his privileges, and somebody fearless has to step up and declare the good news. And
Wow,
this person
George.
has to die. And this person has to die as Jesus died on the cross. And the minute that he died on the cross, he brought peace to humankind. He brought the two afar together. He drew us up from the kingdom of darkness and he brought us in the kingdom of light so that we will have peace with God, peace with Jesus, to become heritage of his riches, to become his brothers, to become the same family. It was require a death. And in our life, this death won't come for everybody with a bullet or with a knife, or for another guy in Ireland that in his wheelchair was killed, or for the 10,000 Christians in Nigeria, will not come with his way. 11 out of 12 disciples, they die as a martyrs, except John, that peaceful, he went to a nice Greek island. But uh, again, requires a death. Before you, we die daily and nightly before you. And peace to come, I have to to kill my ego. And I see my brother and I don't like him, and he goes to the same church with me. I have to kill my ego. Nobody else will kill it. Daily death, uh, for peace sake. And then you have a problem with your spouse, with your wife, with your husband, and how you can solve this problem. I have to die. Somebody has to die. And I'm not saying you hang up yourself or you take a gun and you kill yourself. No, no, God forbid. But you have to die with Him and say, my ego, I don't live anymore. I'm dead. And this is what we declare with baptism. What we do with baptism? With baptism, we do a picture in front of us. Our old George, he gets into the water, and this is death. And the new George comes out, a new creation, a new person. And then when you walk in the life, like Paul, you said, I want to do the good thing, the right thing, and immediately in the parts of my body comes the evil thing. Pity me. Who is going to deliver me? Who is going to free me up? Who is going to bring peace into my life? I am thankful to God that He frees me up daily. How He frees me up? Helping me die. He frees me up to die to myself, to my desires, to my own dreams and ambitions, and to say, I don't live anymore. Jesus lives within me.
Yeah. It's awesome. And that's exactly what I was gonna lead into was I wanna know how George is dying.
I don't know back home. Unfortunately or fortunately, my house is in Cosmovision, and Cosmovision is a house. And it's late at night, and when you are really tired and you want to go, you're ready to crash, and somebody's calling you and says there is a need, and these people, they have no place, or these people, they need somebody to go to pick them up from the airport or something, and this help our daily death.
You've done amazing things. When I got to go over and actually get to see Cosmovision and get to see the incredible dormitory and the athletic facility, the swimming pool and just the grounds and how beautiful and see the containers where you've passed out furniture and beds and diapers and you're feeding people and you're sharing the gospel, you're running programs and all those practical needs. In restoring dignity to people through providing work programs and um occupational training and just really going all in that. And I think George, I think you told me you said that you stopped counting baptisms a long time ago when you'd reached over 1,000 of them.
Yeah, maybe now it's over 2,000. Last
Whoa,
week we had probably 15. um,
it's amazing.
we used some tools. So we try to find a common language, and sometimes the common language is very hard. God doesn't do Pentecost every day, but every day we are witnesses of Babel. So it's the separation of the language. So how we break the barriers, as we said before, sometimes um, just to give food to people. When the crisis, the Syrian crisis, 215, it was in the beginning and exploding. We were not close to any of these places that the refugee center, but the government asked us, and we cook meals, 200, 500, 600, 700 a day. And we have a kitchen and we have some material and we put them together. And, but food was one of the ways that we try to approach the people. And another international language is sports. When you start playing football or soccer, as you call it, um, uh, uh, people, they connect, and you don't have to speak each other's languages over a basketball game or another athletic competition. And then music is international languages. A guy with a violin from Ukraine plays the same violin with a guy from Russia, and the guy from Palestine plays the same violin with a guy from Israel. So you try to find what connects us rather than separates us, and we try to use it in the Cosmovision. So something, this is some of the tools that we are using, and some times to just open um, our hearts and homes. We have a motto here. We say, we don't feed refugees, we eat with them. So this is a very important thing. And I will give you another illustration on that. Some people from abroad, they were touched by refugee work, and they say, we want to help refugees. For the sake of the example, we would like to give $20 to a refugee, and we want this money to go 100% to a refugee. Don't use it for other reasons, for your ministry and stuff. We want this to go because God put in our hearts to give that to the refugees. So say, okay, how we could do that, how we will do this 20 to the refugee. And we've seen people coming from abroad and having 20s to people, hand to hand. But we didn't think this way. The very first thing we thought is uh, this is a begging, and this is like you help a guy in poverty, right? We said, who wants to work? We need somebody to work. We have some work and we need somebody to do it. So we went to the camp. Some hands came up. It says, okay, come to the van. Let's go to the work site. We have the need of doing A, B, C, D, all these jobs, and we want you guys to help us. Now, a second thing we did, besides we ask people to work for us, is we work with them. So I have some excellent co-workers here at CBC, but let's say Bruce, he says, okay, you are not a bricklayer, but let me tell you how they do bricks. And you're not a welder, but let me help you to use a welding machine. And you're not. So what we did is we work with them, and not only we work with them, but they learn something, trade, because some of them, they were doing a different job in the country where they came from. So how they will manage it and survive to the next destination if they don't have a skill, right? So we did not just work with them, but we taught them a new trade. And we did another thing. We gave them food for lunch. So in the lunch break, we gave them food, which this is above and beyond, their salary. But as we said before, we did not give them food. We ate with them. And while we were eating with them, we didn't stop there, but we started discussing with them where you come from, what you were doing here, why you think this happening, why people have to die, why is death? And through all these things, we were trying to lead them to Jesus, to Bible. And some of these people, they were a great soil. Some of these people, they came to know the Lord. Some of these people, even they leading uh, Arabic church this moment as we speak. True story. But let's go back. You want to give $20 to a person, right? This person got his $20, but he got them with dignity because you offer a work that we have a need and you help us to do it. But you didn't just get the 20, you got even to learn some drills, some skills that you can use further down in another country where God will take you. And you didn't just take this, we ate with you and you ate with us, so an extra benefit. And not only this, you heard about Jesus and about his love and the reason why we are doing whatever we are doing. And not only this, CVC now is more improved. I hope this helps you a little bit how we use the tools and how we use the blessing that God give us.
I love it. I love it, George.
And one more thing. Last week, we had some people from IDF, Israeli soldiers, that they came through our place, and we host them kindly. We try to be as good as we could to them. We offer them meals. We offer them a place to sleep. We try to talk to them and encourage them. And then they had Q&A question and answer. And one of the questions was, why do you do that? And I said, first of all, because we are not racist. A few months ago, we did that for Syrians. A few months ago, we did that for Palestinians. In the years before, we did that for Albanians, for Turks, for blacks and whites, for Asians and Africans. And we will do it for you also. And we tell them a little bit about our story. And we open our hearts a little bit. And we try to point them not to our kindness and how philanthropic we are and how Santa Claus we are and how better we are from them because we have our house still intact and we have our family still together and we don't have a war. No, 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 no. Because Jesus loved us and he gave us his love plenty in our lives with a purpose to share it with others that they need it.
Awesome, George. Awesome. So, George, do you think there is hope for peace for our world?
Well, this is hard theological question. Sometimes it reminds me that of some Greek fanatics, fundamentalists or something like that. They hear about the end of times and they hear about Antichrist coming and they say, you know what? No, Antichrist will not come and we will get down against the chip, against the government thing, against this, against that. And I'm thinking in my mind, if the Bible says Antichrist will come, and if the Lord says this earth is going to end up, as he says in Peter, this time no with water and flood, but with fire, who am I to stop it, right? What does this mean? But we have in our minds, yes, peace will come, but not with the way that people think would come. And it's strange because this moment, the three monotheistic religions that they're down in Israel and in Jerusalem, all of them, they are waiting somebody, a Messiah. Israelis, the Orthodox ones, still they're waiting for the first Messiah, right? Muslims, they're waiting for the 13th Imam. 12 they came already, and they were waiting one more. And Christians, the believers or in general Christians, they're waiting for Jesus, right? For Christ to come. So all of them, they're waiting of someone, and someone will come, but it will not be for everyone, and will not be the same one that everyone is waiting for. I hope I didn't lose you there, but what I'm trying to say, we striving for peace, we are fighting for peace, we are waiting for peace, but it says, like we said earlier, my peace I give to you, not like the peace that the world gives to you. So yes, peace will come. Yes, the Prince of Peace is going to rule over every nation. And yes, every nation is going to bow before him, but will not come through UN, will not come through the president of your country or my country or the efforts of the president of Israel, or he will come in a different way. We're waiting the king to come with a horse, but he will come through a donkey, right? So we have the same expectation, but we will be surprised by the way that peace will come. And as we said earlier, peace will come through death. Peace will come through sacrifice, and actually a sacrifice that already has been done. The sacrifice of the Son of God, our brother Jesus, that makes us sons already as well. And this is what we want to promote in Canyon Pathways, right?
Oh, totally, George. And you're right on, and that is an interesting idea that King Pathways we're talking about. You know, sons are first called to rest and receive. Peace starts with each of us, and that surrender, that death, that Christ has laid down his life for us, and we have to choose to believe and receive. We know that men in midlife leadership or post midlife leadership, struggling to find peace right now. That's a reality for many of the men. And if there was something that you were to say to our Canaan Pathways brothers, what would you say to them right now?
For the past midlife, which probably occurs me, and you are coming fast after me, I would say we have to set the example. And Paul said, "You become my imitators as I become an imitator of Christ." We have to become an example. Um, and sometimes it's weird. Um, and I would say um, always uh, the methods of the Lord are weird. I'm thinking of these three cases: uh, Adam's children, Cain and Abel, and then I'm thinking of Isaac's son, Jacob and Isaac, and then I'm thinking um, about the prodigal son. Uh, always, um, not the firstborn is bringing the peace. Always, for some reason, it comes from the underdog, from the secondary, from the one that was not supposed to come from. You know, the firstborn should have the blessing. The firstborn should set the example. And sometimes we observe exactly the opposite. And this is how sometimes God is work. God is working with the underdog. God is working with the minority. God is working with the weak. And Paul says, when I'm weak, then I am strong. God is working, as you called before the Beatitudes. He's going with the poor in mind, right? So if we are thinking um, we are not good enough, we are not firstborns, we haven't had the blessing, we are not educated enough, we are not strong enough, we are not what the people would accept the solution from. This is you that God wants you to, He wants to use you as a tool and to bring peace through you. So this is what encourages my heart. My family is the least, and I am the youngest of my family. Or Moses, he says, "Oh, I cannot speak. I cannot put two words together." And everybody else could say, "I cannot have a child. I'm 90 years old, or I cannot do that, or I cannot do this." So peace is coming from those that they believe they cannot do it. And this moment, we are not on the table to bring decisions in decision making tables, the most of us, but we have the peace with God, the harmony with God. We have the harmony within us, and then we want to share this harmony with the others. And this is given and possible for each one, for every son, given by God through Jesus. This peacemaking language, tool, ability, and I cannot call anything else. Look at you, Paul says, you're not very wise, you're not very rich, you're not very well educated, you're not very smart, you don't have a lot of means, you don't know a lot of things, but I chose you. I choose you before even you were in your mother's womb. I choose you. So get encouraged. Do not be afraid. His peace be within you, and even middle age and older. Uh, you have to show the way. You have to be the example. I like an illustration the other day. It says Moses was up on the mountain, and the people down in the valley they were fighting, and Moses was not fighting, but Moses was praying. And he says, as long as he had his hands up and he was praying, the people down in valley, his people, they were winning. And you say, wait, he's not fighting. He's just praying. What he can do, he's an old man. He cannot go down in the valley. He can just pray. Oh no, he cannot even do that. He cannot hold his hands up for more than 5 minutes. Call these young boys to keep his hands up. He cannot even do it. Yeah. Even when you cannot do anything and others have to help you, still you can give something to others that they are fighting and they are in the valley, in the shadow of death. And then one day, when everything will be revealed, and when we stand before His throne uh, by the bema seat, and He's going to give us the crown of glory, and He's going to uh, tell the well done, faithful servant. Uh, then we will know that we did His job. When we are down here, um, we don't have measures sometimes because we are in a ministry. People that they are supporting and helping us, they said, uh, how many people they came to know the Lord this year, or how many baptisms they happened this year. And I remember a story of a brother from up north Europe, in a poor country, and somebody, he asked him, and he says, how many believers in your country, and how many they got saved this year and stuff like that. And he says, brother, with his broken accent, let me tell you something. And the other guy, he was opening his ears, and he was taking his notes to write down what the brother from this country would tell him. Listen, brother, I'm not God's secretary, I'm God's servant. So we don't know what is the results of our daily efforts, but we know that we have to make these efforts. We don't know how many
Mm.
people they will come to know the Lord through our lifetime, but we know that we have to not be afraid and testify for Jesus. We don't know if the soil is good, but we have to throw the seed. We don't know if it's going to be rain tomorrow and help our crop, our harvest, and stuff like that. But we have to put the seed down. And yes, peace will come. Eventually, peace will come. Eventually, the Prince of Peace will come. It says to a point that, I don't know, it's a little bit disappointing because it says the lion will be with the lamb. And I think it's just symbolic, meaning because Jesus is also the Lion of Judah, but also is the Lamb of God, is just symbolic. It's a little bit disappointing because when he was here on the earth, he loved to eat lamb with us. And I love to eat lamb. So it's a little bit disappointing if we are friends with lamb in heaven. And also it's disappointing that he says, I went to the heaven and I saw no sea, no sea, because it was like a crystal. Which, what does this mean? No fishing. If there is no sea, no fishing, is a little bit disappointing. That was all joke, but I'm saying, but it's gonna be an absolute peace between men. Everybody's gonna uh, uh, live together. It says in His presence. There is no black, there is no white, there is no Greek, there
Mhm.
is no Jew, there is no Gentile, there is no, and everyone and everything in everything is going to be Christ. And we have the amazing privilege, look, to to be co-inheritants, to be His brothers. He
Mm.
calls us Father, He calls us Son, and Jesus calls His brothers. And it's amazing because the firstborn only takes the inheritance, and how He calls us. He calls us all firstborn. That is my only chance because I'm a second child in my family to be a firstborn. And it's the only time that I would like firstborns. And we
I
will
love
live
it,
in
George.
my brother. But this is how my prayer would be. Um, um, Keep giving your example, volunteer to be sacrificed, knowing that the troubles that we are going, they're temporary, and eternal weight of glory is waiting for us.
That's good, bro. Well, let's wrap this up with praying over the men. You've given us such a neat picture of your heart um, for being a peacemaker, and you are truly a son of God. And would you pray over our Canyon men?
Sure, I will. I would love to. Thank you so much, Luke and Noel, and all the men, those that I have met in this part of the world with Canyon Pathways, an amazing ministry that brings people, men together. that they can find comfort with each other, they can find encouragement by each other, they can dream and plan and envision with each other, even being from different nations. And we are very thankful to you, Lord. Very thankful for those that they leading this organization. Very thankful for those that they participating in the meetings of this organization. I pray for each and everyone that I don't even know their names or haven't even seen them, and maybe we will not meet on this part of the universe. I pray that you will encourage their hearts. I pray that you will give them strength and make them to fear not. I pray that you will make them a peacemakers, because the peace is coming only by the peacemakers as we following the peace of the Prince of Peace. I pray, Lord, that you will open doors where there are closed doors. I pray that you will close eyes from people that they shouldn't see, but open eyes from those that they are closed. I pray that you will open hearts as you're knocking at the door, and you will have a meal in an amazing table that you're preparing in the kingdom for us, where everybody will live harmonious. They will not be fear, they will not be tear, they will not be fights, they will not be wars, they will not be separation, but eternal peace. We want your peace that surpassing every understanding. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. And George, thank you so much today for just joining us and sharing your heart and your history and giving us a picture of what it means that Jesus really is the Prince of Peace who has made a covenant with us that frees us from our past and lets us live in total joy and freedom right now in the present. And guys, and Canyon all around the world, as you listen to this today, why don't you just reflect on what peace is like in your life? You can find it in the midst of your conflicts. You can find it in the midst of your confusion. Keep your mind on him. He'll give you perfect peace. Hey, keep on checking things out at Canyon. We're so thankful for all that you're doing. Retreats coming up. Keep us in prayer as we continue to grow and just invite other men into the freedom of sonship and the truth that we really do have a compassionate Father. God bless you.
Friends, hope you enjoyed that conversation between Luke and George Romeos as much as I did. Just incredible history, insight, wisdom, and true joy as well. I loved what George said about peace necessarily coming from peacemakers. We have to be peacemakers to experience peace around us. True peace requires that peacemaking that starts with the Father who says, I bring you peace, I give you peace, I am the God of peace. And we are now sons when we come to him as Father who are in his image and invited to, in our sphere, be peacemakers with him. What an incredible insight, what a true joy, and what a great invitation as we consider moving from the striving of servanthood into the joy, freedom, and peace of sonship. Great episode. Check out the show notes for links, as well as a PDF with discussion questions if you'd like to use this episode for personal reflection or in small group meetings. Subscribe so you catch all of our episodes as they drop as we continue to develop a language of sonship through this podcast. Thanks to the team at Maroon Harpoon for producing this episode, and to our donors who make this venture possible. And as always, thank you for being a part of this Canyon Pathways community as we together live like sons and lead like fathers.